Hi guys, welcome to my channel if it's your first time, and welcome back if you're coming back again. If it's your first time, my name is Allie Wilkins. I am a priestess, I'm a teacher of the ancient feminine and a writer, and I lead people through initiations in restoring your ancient feminine energy, which I see as being the feminine before the patriarchy. The way that the feminine operated when she was operating in high mastery and integrity before all of these patriarchal imprints and constructs were placed upon us, and we suffered greatly for the last 2,000 years because of that. So I teach about the feminine pre all of that stuff, and that's what this whole channel is about. So if you're interested in that sort of conversation, make sure to subscribe. Today we're going to talk about the Venus path and the misrepresentation of it. I find it to be somewhat irresponsible the way that Venus has been showcased, because it's not representing the actual Venus path. You know, it's one sprinkle on 10,000 sprinkles of the ice cream sundae. And I'm going to be going deeper into all of this, by the way, in a masterclass next Friday, May 9th. You can get a replay after. It will be a paid replay. So if you want to attend live, make sure you come live. You can sign up for that at the link in the comments or in the description. So yeah, Venus has been very misrepresented. She's showcased as only in her face of the lover, essentially, of the ecstatic heart, of beauty, of romance as a spiritual path. All of these things are part of the Venus path. However, I find them to be the sort of like 101 of Venus, which if you think about the last 10, 15 years collectively, we've been raising our feminine energy, our feminine consciousness so greatly. If you think about how women were embodying their standards 15 years ago versus today, there's a large difference in that. We have so much more consciousness and embodiment that's been installed of the divine feminine energy. And now I feel it's time. Venus is like, okay, we're ready to like keep it going. We're done with just this lover stuff. Are we ready to like really get into the feminine mastery? Because the lover is an essential foundation. And I'm going to talk in a minute about what I view the lover as, because I view it, because I'm looking at it from an ancient feminine perspective, not from the patriarchal perspective. I look at it very differently than it's taught. And I want to just talk about the patriarchal stamp of approval for a second. I've talked about this a lot in relation to dark feminine energy, and how basically what happens is that um, the dark forces, you could say, or the elites, or whatever you want to call it, there's a force that sees the feminine is rising, which means that this corruption, all of this stuff is not sustainable, because the feminine devours, she destroys. She also creates, right? But she's also not afraid of devouring and destroying. We haven't accessed that collectively for the most part. So what they do is they say, okay, we can't stop the rising of this, but what we can do is try to hone people in on specific aspects of it. This is why when we see the dark feminine represented, especially a year or 2 years ago, it's all about the femme fatale. It's all about seduction. It's all about, and like dark seduction is the way that I would refer to that. It's all about like kind of man hating, or being super sexy. And that's what I mean when I say seductive, but in a way that's not really for our highest good. And I'm going to talk more about seduction later, because that is a part of the Venus path. I just think that there's a more integrous way to hold it than what we've been showcased. So the patriarchy has basically said, okay, she's rising. Let's bring people's attention to these aspects that don't disrupt the patriarchy. The same thing is happening with the Venus path. So anything that threatens the patriarchy, they don't want us to be involved in, right? But they're like, oh, the lover part of Venus, you know, this like maiden type energy that is just has a deep well of yearning, which I have. I'm not talking poorly about that. That's an essential aspect of our really being in our feminine energy. However, just like the dark feminine, just like the femme fatale, just like the more seductive aspect of the feminine. That isn't even the dark feminine energy. That's the entryway into it. The femme fatale is a shadow wound, and I talk about all of that stuff in more of my dark feminine videos, but in teachings and courses. But um, they don't want us to actually go into the true mastery of these paths because the dark feminine is wild. You can't contain her. She's ravenous. She is not afraid of anything. She's so courageous and brave, and she will speak up against corruption, right? They don't want us to tap into that aspect. So coming back to Venus, they the lover, the way that she's being taught, this aspect of Venus doesn't disrupt anything with the patriarchy. And so people think that Venus is just, oh, she's this sweet, loving, just really open-hearted, um, deeply caring woman who has a huge open heart. She's beautiful, she's radiant, she's magnetic. This is almost all the time if someone talks about Venus, they're only talking about those aspects. They are foundational aspects to bring us into our power in a certain aspect so that we can be fueled by those things into the next steps of mastery. The Venus energy is ultimately meant to be able to learn how to stay centered in our power while we are dismantling darkness, while we are addressing demons in the space and being able to hold a powerful, strong energy that we're not taking that on. And nobody ever talks about the fact that Venus is the mother of demons. That's what one of her like epithets is. The mother of demons. So what does that actually mean? That means that she raises and pacifies, she tames and pacifies demons in yourself, but also in others. And we start in our own internal process before you like go to the Illuminati headquarters. Like, so we start in our own process, addressing our own demons, raising them into love, which gives us a certain sense, a certain amount of practice and integration doing that. And if you've noticed this, the more that you do that, the more you also are attracting people who test you in that area. So I've definitely experienced this. So many people that I know, so many clients have experienced when they raise their frequency, when they become more masterful, they start to attract people who have equal mastery, except it's not in integrity. It's in darkness. It's not in a loving, high vibrational sense. It's in a space that's rooted in fear, ultimately. And so those people teach us how to hold and steward our container in relation to Venus in terms of understanding how to protect ourselves. But down the line, what Venus is really wanting us to do is to be able to hold our feminine energy without being shaken and be able to, first of all, radiate at our highest vibration, share our unique vibration without doubt, without hesitation, without fear, being the muse. She wants us to be deeply embodied in our eroticism. And I'm not just talking about sexuality, I'm talking about understanding the mastery of your life force energy. She wants us to be skilled and masterful in all of these things, which come with tremendous challenge, which come with so much shadow work. This is another reason why she's called the mother of demons. She goes into the underworld. So the way Venus, I'm going all over the place here because there's so much I want to say, but we're going to come full circle, okay? So the way she's being depicted is just the heavenly realm, just the upper world, just the cosmic Venus. We don't see people talking about underworld Venus. What happens when she's in the underworld? So we go through this phase with her over and over and over and over again until we become masterful at navigating the underworld so that we can then go from, at this point, we have healed a lot within ourselves. We're confident in our ability to do our shadow work and to heal our demons within. And then the mastery of Venus is being able to do that with others. And so we think about the type of environment, the world that we're in today, how many people are completely mindlessly governed by greed, corruption, like status, people that only care about making money. They don't care the way that they're doing it and the impact on others that has. There's so many things we could throw into that bucket, right? What would it be like if all women knew how to raise the demon and the people that they're interacting with, loving it completely? This is why she's the mother of demons, because she's caring for these demons. She's not like, get out of here. She's not like, I banish you from, she mothers them so that they remember who they are. And what if we were able to do this? All women, what if we were able to do this in our environment? What would happen? The mass flash, what's it called? Like the big solar flash, like the big awakening, whatever they call it, I forget. In that chart that has like a million words on it. I'm sure you've seen it, the image. So her work goes far deeper than just the lover aspect. And from what I remember from going into my own Akashic records, from looking at the Venus path and how this was shaped over thousands of years, there would have been different ranges of where people operated in this. The highest being the Serpent Priestess, which I will teach about exclusively in the Venus Path initiation, which is a 5-month initiation, group course vibe, but initiation vibe that's going to be happening this summer. We start May 30th. We're going to talk for a whole month about the Serpent Priestess, but her job, she would be consorted to the kings. She would be consorted to the leaders of nations. And her job as an oracle, and this would have been the Serpent Priestess in her highest mastery. Not all Serpent Priestesses did this. She would have been consorted to these massive leaders as an oracular advisor. So she needed to understand how the patriarchal mind worked. She needed to understand how she could get around that and get to the person's soul, because her ultimate job was this selfless job of stewarding civilization. That's what all priestesses are doing. We're stewarding the collective's consciousness, just in different ways. So the serpent priestess would have been doing this through advising these very patriarchal, conquest greedy kings who she didn't want them to be doing those things. So she had to learn how to use the art of seduction, but with integrity that wouldn't have manipulation attached to it, which is why the femme fatale is a wounded shadow aspect of the feminine. She's not healthy. The femme fatale is not healthy. She's trying to hurt people. If you look up the actual definition of the femme fatale, it's essentially something like she is trying to actively hurt men. Femme fatale is also a vital stage for us to go through, not the hurting men part, but understanding, like taking back our power in a certain capacity of like, I'm that bitch, and like, but I teach her as the high seductress, so it's not from the shadow wound, which is going to accrue karma for you. That's why I don't fuck with the femme fatale. I work with the high seductress, which is an archetype that I remembered and created. I've never heard anyone else talk about this. I'm very protective over this archetype, because she's so precious, and she's the fourth level actually that comes before the serpent priestess in the way that I view the Venus path and the way that I teach it in a proprietary way. So going back to the serpent priestess, the highest form of Venusian mastery. She had to utilize her beauty, her charm, her seduction, her intelligence, her centeredness, her complete non-male centeredness. She wasn't centering men or in her life, and I'll make another video about that later. She wasn't moved by anything that they would do because she was so strongly in her center. And from that space, she would be able to guide them and facilitate deep transformation in these kings so that the entire civilization wouldn't like go to shit, or they wouldn't bring upon a massive war. And look at the last 2000 years, we haven't had those women in those positions. And look at what happens when women aren't in those positions. So anyway, going back to the root of this video here today, that the Venus path is very misrepresented. When you look at that representation of understanding, Venus is about high feminine mastery. She's not just about being gorgeous. She's not just about taking rose baths and self-care. Those are very basic aspects of the Venus path that, frankly, anybody can do. They don't require the beauty thing, I'll say requires some shadow work depending on how much programming we have and what time frame we're looking at, which all of us have a lot of distortion around that because of all the marketing of body image stuff and beauty. We're not enough, blah, blah, blah. But to say that that's the Venus path is wildly inaccurate. It goes so much deeper. Women are not meant to just sit pretty and look beautiful and attract a man. We're meant to be using our high feminine mastery to cultivate collective consciousness that is harmonious. And we can do all those things. The beauty path serves because it's understood that that first of all, like men will pay more attention to beautiful women, first of all. So they're going to automatically let you into their world. And when I'm not just talk on the Venus path, I'm not just talking about men and women dynamics. It's really talking about the energy of oppression over this patriarchal energy that could exist in anyone. It exists in every woman. So this isn't like about men particularly, but typically, if we're dealing with people in high power, they're gonna be men most of the time in the day and age that we live in, right? So yeah, the beauty is of first of all, so that we have our confidence completely solid, so that we feel good about ourselves and that we feel open and abundant and beautiful and luscious, and there's no limitation in terms of how we see ourselves. We revere ourselves. When I teach about the lover, it's not in relationship to someone outside of you, it's in relationship to yourself. Developing the art of self-reverence, because automatically you're also going to do that with other people when you feel that way about yourself to a certain degree. So to say that the Venus path is just about beauty or just about securing your marriage, it's not it. It's not it. That's a small portion of it. It's meant to be, hey, we're actually supposed to be using this Venusian energy to like not save the world because she doesn't need saving, but to steward collective consciousness. So let's collectively take it to a deeper conversation of Venus and not play around in this shallow end of the pool when there's a 30-foot deep end that we can be exploring and that we can be using for our own ascension. I'm not saying that to be on the Venus path, you have to like go to the White House or go to your country's leader's home and go infiltrate it and pull up all their demons. That's not what I'm saying. However, there are different stages and phases and different forms of embodiments that we can take on the Venus path, that all of them, every single one, has to do with the collective consciousness, has to do with stewarding civilization, which is our job as priestesses. So if we're only looking at the beauty aspects, which you might need to take a year or two just in the beauty aspect, like that's fine. It's just not the full path. And then romance, bringing that into it, romance often teaches us so many of our shadows, right? Romance often teaches us how to heal from abandonment, how to heal from betrayal, how to be with deep yearning. It showcases our shadows, and it also teaches us a lot about boundaries and about discernment, especially in today's day and age. So romance as a spiritual path flows through the whole thing, but as you go through the different 5 archetypes that I teach as the Venus path, when you go through all of those, you become a completely different person. You become the more elevated version of yourself. You become more confident. You become more beautiful. You become more magnetic. You become more powerful. You become more potent. You become more masterful. So I'm tired of us like dilly-dallying in this like shallow end of feminine energy. Oh, I'm divine feminine because I have this $1,000 rose bouquet and a beautiful temple here. Okay, but are we going into the deeper purpose of it? Because the Venus path is very much a selfless path. We're doing it for our own ascension, and also because you probably don't have a choice. Like your soul probably chose to be on the Venus path, and it's just been a part of you for so many lifetimes that you are just innately called to it. However, you're doing it for your own ascension, but also there's a massive aspect of it that is selfless, that is looking to heal and bring harmony into the collective consciousness through your own ability to transmute energy, through your own ability to learn how to operate with your life force. And Venus works fast, you guys. Like I see it in the different programs that I do where we tap into this Venus energy. This is the first time I'm putting all of these Venus archetypes together because I'm just like, like for me and also for others, she works so quickly. It's not like, oh, you have to wait 6 years for this to pan out and do all this work. It's just understanding how to wield your high feminine power. And I use the word high a lot because there's a lot of manipulation that's attached to feminine energy. There's a lot of ways that we're operating from deep wounds and deep shadows. So it's not just about being in our feminine energy. It's about being in the highest form of that that operates with integrity, that operates for the highest good of all, even if in the moment that might not be the best thing for you. It might not be, or it might not feel like what you want. That's a better way to say it. So yeah, the Venus path is misrepresented. Don't think that it's just roses and butterflies and airy fairy sweet, baths with $1,000 oils in the bathtub and like all this stuff. That's not what it's about. That's just about getting to the place where you have self-reverence. So I'm going to be leading a free masterclass Friday, May 9th. We're going to go deeper into this conversation, into some of the specifics. We're going to talk about some of the different archetypes and how you can work with them. And then if you want to go further, I'm doing a 5-month initiation called the Venus Path. So we're going to have a Venus-filled summer all the way up until October. And you're going to be learning how to embody the 5 key codes essentially of being Venus, of becoming this high feminine, masterful being that's operating on a different level. And trust me, people feel that. People recognize it. They can sense it because it's rare. So if you want to experience that, first come to the masterclass. It's going to be free. You have to come live. The replays are going to be paid replays. Inanna told me to do that, so I'm listening. And the Venus Path initiation starts May 30th, but the early bird rate closes May 8th, the day before the masterclass. So if you want to come to that, if you want to be an initiate of the Venus Path and have support, have you have educational support, you have Akashic Records journeys, there's video teachings, and there's also live group calls and a Voxer chat. So if you want to join that and you're like, yep, already know I'm in, get it while it's on early bird so you can save a few $100s. So those are the 2 ways that you can tap in. I also have a course called Infinite Beauty that does talk about more of if you're like, look, my struggle right now is just beauty. My struggle is loving how I look. My struggle is feeling like I can look at myself in the mirror. Infinite Beauty is a really great resource for that. I created it in 2021. And back then it was my highest selling program. And so that might be a good fit for you as well. If you're just coming into this or you're like, look, I've got to fix my body image before I can be like slaying presidential demons. You know what I mean? Um, I'll put the link for that as well. But yeah, send this video if you know somebody who would benefit from it, somebody who's really interested in Venus, somebody who's is wanting to deepen on that path so it can support them. And hopefully I'll see a lot of you guys at the masterclass next Friday, or in the Venus path. So thank you for watching. Please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know any thoughts or any additions that you want to have to this conversation. Um, and yeah, all the links will be in the description, and I will see you guys in the masterclass or on another YouTube video.